We are just getting started. That's why it says starting soon in the top left corner. One of these days I'll animate that as well. Not exactly sure how I'm going to animate a nebula, but I suppose it could be done, right? How are you doing tonight? Alright, let's do our various system checks. Take a look at Twitch, make sure that we can see everything. There's me. Okay. Everything looks good so far. Let's see what it looks like externally. There's me. Maruka Cat, welcome back. Good to see ya. Alright, well, I'm going to attempt some things tonight, and hopefully it's all going to work. Alright, that's the plan. Hopefully it's all going to work. We need to take a look at our tourist spacecraft, which is out here. I should probably disable that because that's not going to work tonight. I have not enabled chatbot. Zero, hey, what's up? Welcome back. Let's see, can I disable that? Just temporarily. We'll enable it some other time. Just getting started for an OP satellite dish. Well, that sounds fun. Okay, well, here we are, guys. Welcome to Sunday in Space. We are working on a couple of contracts here. The one is we have some rich Kerbals that want to fly by the moon, go into orbit, so we're doing that in our career mode here, no mods. And we're also going to attempt to do these temperature surveys, so we're just kind of, you know, two birds, one stone kind of deal. What's up, Pharaoh? Hey, buddy. Good to see you. I was lurking earlier today, too, watching you play some Borderlands. But I was, you know, doing things with the apartment, getting everything, trying to figure all that out. Welcome. Good to see everybody. Yeah, so anyhow, we need to adjust this orbit because last time when I was attempting this, it wasn't going so well because our orbital period is absurd since it's a completely elliptical orbit like this. And it just made it really difficult in order to get our polar orbit in the right, how would you call it? Having the correct angle to pass over those areas of interest. So here's where we need to go. Let me focus on the moon. That's a big focus right there. So these temperature readings we need to get here at sector Sierra Zulu Tango Papa and area Delta Bravo Tango Golf 7. Now in theory, if we do this right, we can fly over both zones, but it looks like right now we're going to miss both of them. I'm trying to line this up so that these lines are flat. If we did that, we could measure the temperature. Yeah, so it's going to be a little tricky. So what I think we'll do, this periapsis is only 75,000 meters, is we'll circularize this orbit, and that'll be a lot easier, because having an orbital period that's over 1 day long is it's problematic, because the moon rotates underneath our spacecraft when it's flying around, right? So I'm going to fast forward over here. Let's warp to that spot. So how's your weekend going, everybody? Going good so far? I slept in really late. Worked on some apartment stuff. Lurked a couple of channels throughout the day. Yeah. Had some ice cream. You know. Typical weekend day kind of thing. Alright, stabilization on. Let's turn retrograde. I'm gonna have to land on the moon in order to get the stone, but those are the things that we need to do there. We have 1190 meters per second of delta V remaining. I want to see okay, 90 degrees. Why does it say 1 day to... Oh, we already passed periapsis. Okay. Let's go ahead and burn and bring the apoapsis, the apogee of the orbit down. Throttling down because it's coming 120, 100, 90, 80. Oh, periapsis dropped a lot. Where did that go there? Okay, so that's fairly circularized. I mean, they're within, what, 6,000 meters of... No, 6 plus 8 is 14,000 meters of each other. It looks pretty circular here, but it's not. It's still quite elliptical. Woke up at 7 p.m. Wow. So, when it comes to sleeping in, you really did it, didn't you? Which way does the moon rotate again? I'm trying to figure out if I need to do an inclination burn at the North Pole to line up these. I probably do. Add maneuver. Maybe if we turn this way? No. Turn this way. I'm gonna have to do this because I can't quite see the maneuver node handles. Well, this is... It's using a lot of delta V at this lower altitude. Let's do the time warp and we'll see which way the moon is rotating. It is rotating that direction. So if we're at the South Pole looking up, it rotates clockwise. 57 seconds. 1 septillion. Good grief. What are you making an antenna so powerful for, dude? Are you all the way out at like Joule or something, or beyond? How far are you out there? Oh, I need to look up, that's right. We're in a polar orbit, y'all. Interstellar. What? How did... Okay, I don't know if we're going to be in the proper zone or not. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds. Need to wait for the alert to show up here. Right there. Basically where the nose is pointing. Right there. It'll tell us if we're over one of these zones. Alright, coming up 10 more seconds. I'm not seeing it. No notification regarding us passing. Oh, here it is, Sector Z. Okay. I should have had this ready. Okay, we got that one. Bam. Alright, just the one more temperature zone. Let's put that thermometer. We'll pin it so it stays up there so I can just grab it real quick. Actually, let's pin it up here so when we see the message I can just reach over and log that. Now we gotta figure out how we can get... I think that if we're gonna do it from here, go prograde. I'm going to push the apo up a little bit. Get it north and south pole. And then let's see if we do an inclination burn on the equator. How much delta V is that going to require? That's 117. And that's burning on the normal. Question is, how much... So if we do this inclination burn, it's 234 meters per second of delta V. What's our orbital period? 1 hour? How much will the moon rotate underneath us? And will we lose our zone? Will we not pass? Because right now, the way it's set, we'll pass directly over it. If I line up the orbit that way, we'll pass over it. But when we're looking up from the South Pole, the moon rotates clockwise. So that means it's going to go here and it's going to move so in order for us to have that lined up in the next hour, oh, we can do that. If we slide our window, our maneuver window, later on orbit by just a few... Alright, let's quick save and see what that happens. How much delta V do we have remaining? We have 1,011 delta V remaining, so that should be enough to get us home and then do a deorbit burn. Because this maneuver is going to cost us 234, leaving us roughly 860-ish. 866. $866 delta V to get home. Radioactive element called illuvium. KSP's plutonium. Aha! That's interesting. I've never seen that before. Alright, let's position ourselves. Let's point at the maneuver node. Yeah, it's just off of the normal indicator here. We have a bit of a retrograde burn on that as well, so that we can keep our orbit relatively same in terms of the altitude and so on. Okay, time warp to there. Let's see how it goes. T-minus 1 minute 20 seconds to maneuver. Rich Kerbals coming along for the ride, doing a little bit of science on the way. T-minus 55 seconds to maneuver. Current altitude is 88,000 meters and climbing. Fast forward a bit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Three, 2, 1. Engine shutdown. Okay, let's speed along this orbit, see how that gets to... Oh! I might have just... Yep, we got it. Okay, you're entering area DG. Log temperature. Save. We got it! We got it! Yes! Congratulations, Kerbals. Conduct temperature surveys of the moon. All three are now checkmarked. Now we just need to return our rich Kerbals back to the planet's surface, safely recover them, parachutes, and everything. Alright, let's, we have 772 meters per second of delta V remaining. Let's see, where do we want to do our inclination burn? Because with this orbit sending us back home, we are in a counter orbit currently. However, the least expensive inclination burn, let me flatten this out. Where's the moon's? There it is. There's the moon's orbit. So approximately here. Nope, burn on the anti-normal. Good grief, that's an expensive burn. That's 50% of our fuel, yo. That's a little, that's troublesome. That's 60% of our fuel there. Okay, if I can wing this back around. So that we don't have to use as much fuel. Okay, 377. What does that return? This is our periapsis around Kerbin. This is our apogee on that orbit. I would like a free return. That'd be really fantastic if we could achieve some semblance of a free return. $283. Merp. It's really kind of annoying. Maybe what I will do because this relatively lower orbit means we're going to burn more to do our inclination burn. But if we raise our orbit, even just a little bit, that could translate into huge savings for our inclination burn. It's not like we need a lot. You know what I mean, Vern? Question mark? Okay, that's 200,000 meters on the apogee. Periapsis is currently 86 kilometers, 86,000 meters. Arrival in 2 minutes 45 seconds. We don't need that anymore. Currently at 756 meters per second of delta V. So we're going to be running on fumes by the time we get home. That's for sure. One of the things I want to do, let's turn retrograde and then hold that aspect so that by the time we get into opposition at the apogee of the orbit, we'll be ready to burn prograde. So we want to raise the periapsis approximately to the same 200,000 meters, aka 200 kilometers. Alright, we're on our way to apoapsis, the apogee. Because web captioner still cannot understand how to translate that word, even though I changed it in the config file. T-minus 1 minute 20 seconds to apogee. Okay. There we are, facing prograde. We're going to burn a little bit. Yo, Snackless Kerbal! Welcome back. Good to see you. So you can see we've completed the temperature surveys of the Mun. We have our 2 rich Kerbals. We just need to get an inclination that is conducive to getting us out of the Mun's gravity well and back into Kerbin on a return trajectory. T-minus 45 seconds to apogee. I'm going to go ahead and burn a little bit here and let's just start raising that periapsis. about 20% engine. There's 202. That's roughly circularized. We used about 40, maybe 38 meters per second of delta V to do that. Let's see what it's going to cost us to do an inclination burn now. That should make things easier now that we're at 200,000 meters. 200 kilometers over the Moon's surface. Deep space habitat based on Skylab. Nice. Yeah, I think pretty soon, now that I'm unlocking more and more science, more and more technology, we're going to be working on our space stations as well. So that should be fun. As you well know, it's always fun making space stations. Alright, 172 meters per second of delta V. We've only got like 718, right? Three little stars. That's your Skylab. Okay, so if we do this, that's raising the apo. Alright, that's giving us a return, but is not ideal. That's 50% of our fuel, just to get to this inclination. Now, if I also wanted to push radially that apo this way, what does that do to our periapsis? It's dropping it to 121. That's curious. 503, that only gives us 200 delta V remaining. Man, this is a bit of a pickle, y'all. Ultimately, okay, here's where I'm going with. It uses considerably less delta V at a higher altitude to change our inclination. So I think I might sacrifice a bit and make this an elliptical orbit to change our inclination. How do I want to do this? There's not much here that's going to be ideal, especially since we only have 718 meters per second of delta V available, which is about 44 seconds of burn time at 100% engine. What's our fuel look like? We're at about 40% of our fuel, 35%. Shoot. 80 meters per second gets us at 849,000. I want it to be on the plane of the orbit. Yeah, and then from here, we would do our inclination burn. I don't know what that's going to cost us just yet. Also because that's kind of late there. So maybe what we could do, burn this, burn our inclination, adjust radially. There's so much, that's getting really complicated, and it's burning more fuel. It's going to be much more expensive. But maybe that can save us in terms of our exit. Because we want this behind the moon. That'll be the easiest way to drop out of the well. This is going to cost us 80, so that brings us down from 718 minus 80. So 100 would be 618. Add 20 to that would be 638 remaining. Then we would have to use that for any... Yeah, we might be doing aerobraking again for our return. At least we have a decent amount of heat shield available. Alright, let's quick save here and then we'll attempt this maneuver. Look at that, right there on the prograde. T-minus 50 seconds to burn. Fast forward just a little bit. Okay, coming up on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. 2, 1, shutdown. 637 meters per second of delta V remaining. All right. Now let's see what it's going to take at this altitude. So we're much higher, 852,000 meters, to do an inclination burn. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's say if we use 150 meters per second to get relatively flat. We can do an exit burn over here at some point, unless we did a radial burn to push this further inside of the Mun's orbit. Yo, welcome back. How you doing? We're trying to bring home the rich Kerbals. We did complete the contract for the temperature surveys. So now it's just a matter of bringing everybody home with the remaining fuel that we've got. You know? One of those missions. How's your weekend going? Actually, we can get this kind of flat if I just... What does that do to our periapsis? totally wrecks the whole thing. Land our rover on Eve. Nice. Pretty far out there, huh? Alright, so let's say we do it this way. That's... I think that's good enough for government work. We'll give that a shot. Yep, here there I go, fat fingering the keyboard again. Fat fingers. Hitting the wrong buttons. Okay, all the planning. Work the plan, plan the work. Plan the work, work the plan? How does that saying go? Oh yeah, and we're orbiting that direction too, so that's gonna be... So then that way we're gonna have to maneuver off of there, or something, maybe over here. We'll be able to get our escape trajectory, I think. I'm gonna go ahead and just cheat this, get started now on the burn. We're far enough out there. I think we'll be fine. Passing pretty low there. Okay, so let's do maneuver here. "40 meters per second drops us out there." What does that look like in terms of our... Okay, we have periapsis. Here's our apo. How hard do we have to burn to get close to... $134 looks like... My headset keeps cutting out. 134 looks like, or 1,234,000 looks like optimal for that window. And then now we just have to adjust our burn to bring us back. What's our periapsis for our return here? It looks like 144,000. $200 meters per second gets us 87,595. Apogee of that orb is 13.5 million. Now here's the thing. So that's 200 meters per second is that burn. What do we have remaining on fuel? We have 507 meters per second of delta V. So that, subtract 200, leaves us with 300 meters per second of delta V. So we can go back to the top of that orbit if we need to drop the periapsis. But we can lower our apogee quite a bit to help reduce our energy. And then when we get to the apogee again, we can drop the periapsis into the atmosphere and do aerobraking if necessary. That's going to be an interesting return. It's highly inclined on that orbital path. So yeah, I guess we'll just see how it goes, yo. Alright, let's go ahead and line up our spacecraft for the maneuver node so that we're ready and prepared for the burn. We don't want to miss that window of opportunity. Okay, lock that in. And yeah. Time warp. Okay, T minus 55 seconds to maneuver. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. T minus 10 seconds now. Three, two, one, ignition. There she blows. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine shutdown. Whoa. Where does that put our periapsis? 122,000 meters. Okay, I mean it's relatively close. Alright, leaving the Mun orbit, the Mun's gravity well, and then we'll be recaptured by Kerbin. So, it's exciting. We're leaving the Mun, y'all. We're going home. We're at about 15% of our fuel. Here we go. All right, pointing retrograde. I just want to check in on this periapsis. If we burn just a smidge, we can lower that. $69,710. That'll just skip off of the atmosphere. It'll give us a little bit of aerobraking, and then we can burn retro. I think a little bit to bring that down. Yeah. But it is a 3-day trip to get home from this point. Alright. Let's click on the orbit, if we can reach it. Can I focus on the planet? Here we go. That was not the planet. That's not the planet either. There we go. Okay. Warp here. Zoom. On approach, 2,600 meters per second and climbing. Periapsis in T-minus 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Electrical looks good. Let's take a look at our spacecraft. Configure for mild aero braking, which means we're going to put away our solar panels. Close the service bay. We are positioned retrograde to a halt. That's not good. And a few other things. Oh boy. Yes, Nightbot, we're gonna quick save. Okay. Currently we are in Atmo. We're dropping a little bit on the altitude here, not much. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a small burn. I'm just watching that fuel level there. If we can bring that down. We're down 8 million meters on the apogee. Give you guys a sense of what that looks like out here in the tracking station view. How does it not take a minute to load a new page in Chrome? Well, I suppose it depends on your computer, you know? Process. RAM, things of that nature. How much memory do you have? So on and so forth. Alright, 8.22 liquid fuel remaining. Brought the apogee down to 2.8 million kilometers. Meters only. Just meters. What is that? 2,800 kilometers is what that actually is. So at this point, we have to look at the spacecraft. We have 92 meters per second of delta V remaining on this spacecraft. So if we go out and we want to burn we want to set up our deorbit burn, how's that going to look? Let's add a maneuver here. Burn retrograde. To be the most effective, we need to be higher up. I'm just looking at the periapsis altitude that's right here. Showing 18,000 meters there. That would probably give us a good splashdown. I don't know how much the planet's going to rotate underneath us. Orbital period's 2 hours and 3 minutes, so yeah. Ryzen 5 2500, 16 gigs of RAM, 250 SSD, and 1 terabyte HDD. RX 580. Is that your video card? Because I'm running on Ryzen 5 2600 with 16 gigs of RAM. And I'm using a regular hard drive. I'm not using an SSD. I'm also running NVIDIA graphics, so if that's an AMD, I don't know the equivalent. But that's a lot of RAM if that's the graphics card. That seems pretty good. Just saying. Ti. Oh, okay. I mean, what's the page that you're loading also? Because that can affect things. If it's just like a generic text page, I would expect it to show up instantly. You know, something like a news page would show up within a few seconds. Can't imagine. Twitch and KSP. Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, KSP loading, that's going to take a while anyway, because it's a big game, you know? But Twitch, like just on Chrome browser, should be relatively